Hey guys, hi everybody, and welcome to another Failures Anonymous Real Stories interview. Today we have Richard Kaufman here with us, and well, let's just dive directly into it. Hi Richard, and can you please tell our audience a little bit about yourself, who Richard is?
Okay, well, thank you first of all for having me. My story is I've came back from failure probably a good 5 or 6 times, came back from death twice. First of all, I grew up very poor, one family home. I was an alcoholic by the age of, I started drinking at 11. I was an alcoholic by the age of 13. Became homeless, joined the military, became a professional drinker, got thrown out of the military for drugs and alcohol abuse. Came home again, became homeless again, and finally I got clean because of something that happened that I had to go to a program, and then I rejoined the military, and I was about to get thrown out for the second time for the same thing. I wasn't drinking; I was just being an asshole, and I was supposed to be discharged the end of September of 2001, and then 9/11 happened, and I lost some of my friends in the towers, and it really broke my heart, and something switched in my mind, and I went and talked to my company commander, and I asked him to give me one last chance. And 2 years later, I went from almost being kicked out to being soldier of the year, and then I finished my career with 24 years in total in the military. And then I was backing up a Humvee, and instead of him hitting the brakes, he hit the gas and ran over my head and my whole body. And so I'm blind in this eye and have the PTSD and TBI. And since the military said you can't shoot, we can't keep you. So they booted me out. And so not only did I lose my vision, I lost my career, but now I'm back stronger than ever. I manage a very successful general nutrition center, and now I help veterans that are going through health issues, anything with health, depression, TBI, any kind of addiction issues. So that's my story in a nutshell. You know, I've failed a lot.
Oh my God, this was really like a whole story in really a nutshell. I need to learn from you. Whenever they tell me, Mika, tell your story, I can go on and on and on and on. I just don't know how to shorten it. So I need to learn from this.
Well, you know what it is? I don't want to bore anybody. You know, I don't want to.
You're definitely not boring. I mean, wow. But yeah, let's dive into the failures. So if you can pick, I don't know, 2 or 3 darkest, hardest failures, which ones would that be?
Probably the first darkest would probably be dropping out of school, because I dropped out of school. I didn't finish the 9th grade. But since that time, I've read over 6,000 books since that time. So I think the biggest failure was not going back to school, or actually going to school, because when most people were going to proms and doing high school things, I was hitting the streets drinking and drugging. So that would probably be my first one.
Okay. Second one?
Definitely getting thrown out of the military, because I came home. I told my mom, I couldn't tell my mom, you know, I got booted out, you know, for drugs and alcohol. So I told her, you know, I just told her a lie and said they let me out early. And so I think that was the biggest disappointment to myself, is knowing that I didn't complete what I set out to do. That would probably be number 2.
And then number 3?
Number 3 would definitely be, I've been married 3 times, and the hearts that I've broken, my past 2 wives, it was my fault. It wasn't anybody else's fault. So, but I'm making up for that now with my beautiful wife. We've been together for 9 years now.
Perfect. Okay, let's go back to dropping out of, well, elementary school. Yeah.
Yeah, I finished. Well, I didn't get to finish ninth grade because, I mean, I think it was because I had when I went to grade school. I mean, before I went to kindergarten, I had a lady that taught me, and when I got into first grade, I was reading on a fourth or fifth grade level. So I think it was my ADD was kicking in, and I would get to school and they would teach something, and I would get it, and then I'd be like, all right, I got it. Let's move on. And they're like, no, we got to wait. And I'm like, no, just go to the next thing. So I couldn't handle it. It was just my mind was racing more than I can, it was going 100 miles an hour.
Okay. Can you tell us, can you take us on the journey of, so you failed, you dropped out of school, and what was happening after that? What were the emotions? What was the self-talk?
Well, I don't know if you've ever read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I did.
Well, I actually lived that life because my mother was the poor mother, and her sister was the rich sister. And I have two cousins. They're awesome, but they were going to college. They had careers, and I'm just a bum on the street. So I figured, well, if I'm going to be the black sheep, I'm going to go all the way. I'm not going to half-ass it. I'm going to be total opposite of what they were. So that's where I was at that time.
Okay. But can you tell us about some of the emotions, after the failure? So you failed, and then how did you react? How did you emotionally react to that? What was going through your mind, in the first few days, weeks of your failure?
Oh, a lot of it, to be honest with you, I blocked out a lot of my memories from that time and that age.
Okay. Would you rather we move then to the second failure? Is that still more?
Yeah, that's a little bit more clear because, I mean, I was drinking from the age of like 11. I was up to 2 cases of beer a night in the Fifth of Sambuca, like 5 or 6 days a week. So I really don't remember a whole lot of that.
Okay. So yeah, then let's go directly to the failure number 2, to being kicked out of the army.
Well, I had a lot of great times when I was in, but I was always that guy that because I went in the day I turned 17, I shipped like 2 weeks later. So when I joined the military, it was a 17-year-old kid hanging out with 30, 40-year-old guys. And I became a professional drinker at that time. And the job was the military was just paying me. And so I really didn't conform to standards. And they deserved to boot me out. And I got busted like 4 or 5 times. I went from like E4 to E1 a couple times. And then they put me out. So when I got home, at this time I'm 19 years old. And all my friends that I knew back home, they're all in college now. And I got home and I couldn't really go for any good jobs because if you get thrown out of the military, even though it was a general discharge, it doesn't look very good on your record. So I couldn't exactly go to be a police officer or firefighter or anything like that because I had the bad record. So then it was just being just coming home, and after being 2 years on my own partying and doing what I wanted to do, to come home and live with my parents and tell me I had to be in bed in by 10 o'clock. That didn't go really well.
You mentioned when you were saying before that you were ashamed and you didn't even tell your mom exactly what happened.
Yeah, because I mean, even though we weren't very close at that time, I just knew that it was her dream to always go in the military. But back when she was younger, women were not really allowed to join the military. And if they were shunned. So when I told my mother that I was joining, she got all excited and was all happy. And I think it was the first time that she was ever proud of me. So having to come home and, you know, I couldn't exactly tell the truth, you know. So that weighed heavily on me.
But after a few days or a few weeks, it was obvious to her that you left the army.
Yeah, but I mean, I did 2 years, so it wasn't like I was just there for a week and a half. So you know, I signed up for 4 and I came home in 2. But you know, as an addict, anybody, you can actually talk anybody into anything when you're an active addict. You know, you can actually be. I think that's why it saved my bacon a lot of times when I would, instead of getting arrested, I would be able to talk my way out of stuff. And okay. So I think, so that was when I got home, and I think it would have just broke her heart even more. So I just said I just got out. And she never asked for any paperwork. You know, I just showed up one day with my bags packed.
Okay. How did the experience of them kicking you out mark you in any way emotionally? Like, I don't know. How did you feel? Were you like relieved that they kicked you out in a way, or were you blaming them or yourself?
Well, at that time, up until like the age of maybe 35 or 40, I blamed everything else on everybody. It's always everybody else's fault. So I was like, you know, well, they should have understood that, you know, don't everybody get drunk 7 days a week? You know, isn't that what the Army's about? So, you know, I blamed everybody but me at this point, you know, because really when you look in the mirror, you know, you don't really see the real you. You just see who you think you are. So when I got home, it was just like, all right, now what? You know, I figured, you know, I've had military experience. I should be able to get jobs on the outside, and that didn't happen.
How was life after all that? So you couldn't get a job. You were living back home with your mom, and just how was your normal day to day? Like, where did you went?
I lived home.
To alcohol,
I'm sorry.
And drugs. No, but
oh
you said
yes. As soon as I got home, I was just continuing to party again, and I got a job stacking groceries at the local store. So I was just
enough to buy booze and you know, and I keep on going.
And I didn't need a car because we lived right around the corner from the store, so I didn't have any need for a car. And that's when I met my first girlfriend when I got home, and I started working for her father, working in his business, and that's how me and her, you know, met. And I was making, I didn't want to listen to my parents' rules, and the funny thing is, now that I'm a parent, I hear a lot of the same stuff that they used to say. I say to my kids, because I got teenagers. So she booted my ass out. So you're starting to see a pattern here, right? So they booted my ass out, and I was making good money with my ex. You know, I was making great money, but and I had to move into a crack house, and I couldn't afford to pay the rent. So guess what? They booted my ass out of there. And I lived in my truck for a while. And the funny thing is, I was making more than enough to pay my bills, but I would get drunk on a Friday night, and I'd come home and all my money would be gone. So I was back to zero again Saturday morning. And I lived that way probably for about a year, maybe. Lived in my truck.
And how did you buy food?
I would just sometimes just make enough money just to, you know, to survive. I mean, when I got out of the Army, I was only like 138 pounds. So I drank everything. Because usually if you go to the bar, you know people, you can subsist off of, you know, everybody buying you drinks and stuff like that. So that's how it was for about a good year, maybe. Then my mom would come. my mom came to the crack house a couple of times, and I had a hot plate. That's what I had to cook off of. So she would bring me, cans of cans of food and stuff like that. And then I got booed out of the crack house. And she stopped coming.
And then you found job in the military again.
Well, what happened was, of course, I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do, what kind of job I'm going to do. So I see an ad in the newspaper to go to school to be a bartender. So not only am I a drunk, I'm going to school to be a bartender. And the first job, I know it's stupid, right? But the first job I got when I got out was bartending school was a guy that he owned a bar in Newark, Jersey. And he was a police officer. And this was 1989, New Year's Eve. I get to work. Everything's going good. I meet him. He tells me what to do. I start having some drinks here and there, with the customers. 9 hours later, I wake up with the police knocking on my door. I took all the money out of the register, like $5,000, and they came and locked me up. So they took me downtown. My aunt and uncle, my rich aunt and uncle came and bailed me out. And the police officer took me aside. He said, "Listen, son," he said, "you can either go to the program or you can go to jail, whatever your choice is." And I thought, I'm too pretty to go to jail. So, I had to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I hit something like 700 meetings in a row. It was stupid, whatever it was. And I haven't had a drink or a drug since 1989.
Oh, okay. So this was like an AA meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so what happened was I met another girl, and we moved to Pennsylvania, got married. And I got the itch to get back in the military because I wanted to do the right thing. I didn't want to just have unfinished business.
But wait a second. So you actually stopped drinking and using drugs at that time. So how did you got booted again later on? Like, what were you doing then?
I was just, at that time, I had an attitude problem because I figured, again, just like I said, it didn't change. This hasn't, my life didn't change really until I hit my late 30s, early 40s. After 9/11 is when everything changed. But then I was living for myself. I didn't care about anybody else. The world owed me a living, so I had a chip on my shoulder. So if you told me the sky was red, I was going to tell you it's blue all day long, and we're going to argue over it, no matter what it was. So I was. So
you went from a party drinker person to this bitter, angry person, just ready to fight with anybody.
Yep, there's something called a dry drunk. It's where you're not drinking, but you're still acting like an asshole. And that's where I was at. And it got really bad. And then I joined the military again, and I was almost about to get booted out for the second time. And then I moved to South Carolina National Guard, and I joined over there. So not only did I have an attitude problem, I'm a Yankee. So they don't like the Yankees, first of all. And then I had the Yankee attitude. So I was not a very popular person there either. And they were going to boot me out the end of September of 2001.
If we go back a little bit, so you met your wife, you got married. Mm-hmm. What was going on? Like you said, you divorced 2 times, and it was all your fault.
Well, because I can never, in my life now, I can't blame anybody for anything. Like my friend Ed Milet says, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So I just used everything as a learning experience. And if I take on all the blame myself, then I don't have to worry about blaming anybody for anything.
Okay, that's good. But can you walk us a little bit? Was it like a abusive relationship, or like what was wrong with those two relationships?
Nothing on their end. Wasn't on their end at all. It was just, well, the first girl I married, I just cheated on her all the time.
Okay.
And then she had a child, and I didn't abuse him, but I didn't treat him the right way. And
Okay.
so then we
What
got,
what do you mean by that? You didn't treat them the right way.
I have three kids, but two of them are my, they say stepchildren, but I consider them my children. I and
Okay.
I everything, the sun shines and sets on my kids. I'll do anything for my kids. But when I got married to her, I didn't realize that it was a package deal. You get the mother, you get the child. So I was,
Oh,
again,
oh, so that was a kid from before
yeah,
before you two got married.
exactly, yeah. So like I said, I was just an asshole. So,
Okay, okay.
and
And then
then
the second
well,
time.
we moved to South Carolina. We bought a house, and the reason why we got divorced is because she wanted to move back to New Jersey, and I didn't want to move back to New Jersey. So she moved back here because she missed her family, which I can understand. So we got divorced there.
Okay. And then how many years later you met the second wife?
Probably it was when right after during the whole 9/11 thing, during the whole around 2001, and I got deployed stateside in like 2002, 2003. And
Okay.
then, but we got married, and she was a great person. She was a Southern belle, and I had no, just wasn't happening. I don't know what it was. She never did anything wrong to me. It was just I just wasn't feeling it. So
Okay.
and then I moved back. I divorced and moved back to New Jersey.
Was that around 9/11?
No, I moved here. Let's see, it's 2018. I moved here nine years ago. So 2009, I moved back here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So okay, let's go from relationships to the 9/11. You said you lost a lot of friends back
I
then.
I had friends because the town that I live in, if there's no traffic, you could have been at the towers in 10 minutes. So we
Okay.
lived right across the bridge. So I knew a lot of people that were actually working that day, and I knew some people that were firefighters and first responders. And
And what happened then in your head?
well,
Like
what happened was,
at that time you were, yeah, they were trying. I mean, they wanted to boot you out of the
yep,
army again
yep,
because of your attitude, I guess.
of course, yep. It was just the same shit, just not drinking, just being an asshole. And
Okay.
we were at my house, and all of a sudden, I hear, "You got to come here," and I'm like, "What?" I was getting ready to go to work because I worked at a GNC while I was there, and it was just as the second plane hit the towers, and I guess my heart just stopped, and I'd call my mom. I'm like, "Is this really true? Is it a story?" Because nobody really knew what was going on, and she told me, "Yeah, terrorist attacks," and then I heard about the Pentagon, and for some reason, I just sat down, started crying and shaking uncontrollably, and something just clicked. I don't know what it was. Still don't know what it is to this day. But I think, I'm like, I can't do anything now, but I'm going to dedicate the rest of my life and my career to the people that we lost today. And then right after that, my first sergeant, I called my first sergeant. I said, we need to talk. And I met him that like the day later. And I said, listen, I know you're going to throw me out. And I know you've heard all my bullshit before. Please give me one more chance. And for some reason, they took a chance on me. And after that, I never missed a drill. They promoted me to sergeant. I actually got Soldier of the Year for the company and the battalion. And even when I moved to New Jersey and I still had to go to drill in South Carolina, I drove 700 miles each way and I never missed drill for 6 months. So my guys would be like, Sarge, I can't make it today. I'm like, listen, dude, I just drove 700 miles. You live around the corner. There's no way you can't make it. And I became that respected guy that I always wanted to be.
Let's go to that moment when you sat down and you started, you say, shaking and everything. Well, can you remember what was going through your head at that moment?
I really can't even explain what it was. And I think because we had our stuff get out and it was on the floor because we were getting ready to go to drill that weekend, whatever that next weekend was. And then they showed pictures of the Pentagon, and I have all my clothes sitting in bundles on the floor, knowing that I'm about to be thrown out. So it's kind of like these people are rushing into helping people, and I'm being an asshole, and I'm getting thrown out for being stupid.
Okay.
And it kind of just, I don't know what, it just clicked. Something just, I don't know what it was.
Was it before or after or at that moment when you stopped blaming others and took responsibility for your own actions, for everything?
Well, I think at that time, it was a couple weeks afterwards, and I met with my first sergeant, and then we all got the phone call. All right, guys, have your shit ready, just in case you're ready to be called. And then they called us all down to the armory, and we had to sign power of attorney, had to sign our life and our will and a power of attorney. And that's when shit just got real, And then I was like, all right, it's time to adult, I have to become an adult now. I'm like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. So now I never got deployed overseas. I got deployed, we were stateside, and it was about 4 hours from my house. So that's when I became an adult, because that's when I had to handle my own bills, had to sign over the power of attorney and had to do all that stuff. So that's when it's like, well, the buck stops with me. There's it doesn't matter what happened in the past. It's irrelevant now.
How old were you at that time?
2001. I'm almost 50. So maybe 31, 32, maybe?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Yeah. And like I said, I was just doing whatever I wanted to do the last 32 years. I just did whatever the hell I wanted to do. I never felt, I always lived that it's everybody else's fault. Everything ever happened to me, it's everybody else's fault. And then after we, got deployed, then everything just changed to be like, well, you know what? If shit's going to happen, it's your fault. There's nobody to fall back on. So I can't be a leader of men and just be blaming everybody else. When you're a squad leader, it's your fault. Shit breaks down, it's your fault. You learn to accept responsibility.
you doing any personal development stuff at that time, or that just came kind of like naturally to you, like this feeling of responsibility?
Well, the whole time, like I said, I've always been, like I told Donnie, he asked me, well, when did you start to read? And I told him what the exact time it happened is my step-parents, my parents, they would always argue. So even like when I was 7 or 6 years old, I would go into the tub, fill up the tubs and lay in it so I can't hear it. And I would just read books for hours on end. And that's how I started to get into my reading. And then I've always been a big reader of anything. Like I used to read it, the encyclopedia, just to read it, just to get knowledge. And then, but I think I didn't really get into personal development probably until, like I said, about 32, 33, when we got deployed, because everybody else would be going out and partying, and I'd be either watching video games or reading books or watching autobiographies. And that's when I started getting into like Tony Robbins, stuff like that back then. Unlimited was personal power, whatever that was. And then I started
unlimited power, yeah.
Yeah, and then I started reading, stuff by Dale Carnegie, and then I just started getting deep into the self-help and stuff like that. Because I was going to meetings, so I was like, all right, what else is out there? What other kind of addictions are there? So I started reading books on just anything, whatever. Like a lot of people, they would argue about the Bible. I'm like, did you ever read the Bible? So I read the Bible, or they would argue about the Quran. And I'd be able to talk sense with them because I read the Quran. I wanted to be able to just know stuff, and I guess that's something like now I always have 5, 6, 7 books going at one time, even today.
Okay. How would you describe the lessons that you learned through all those failures? Is there any way to sum them up in a way?
Well, like I mentioned before, my friend Ed Milet, he says, things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So everything in life, either you can use it as a crutch or you can use it as a learning tool. So, once I figured out, okay, I had a shitty father. Okay, so now I'm trying to be the best father I can be. My father wasn't a good husband. Okay, now I'm going to be the husband that he never was. So I kind of flipped the script on everything. Everything that I wanted to be in a man, I'm trying to be now. So, I don't know if you ever seen a movie called 8 Mile. Has the singer Eminem in it.
Yes, I did.
At the end of the movie, him and the guy are about to go battle rap, and he tells every bad thing that he's ever done. So the guy has nothing to come back to him at. So now that's my life now. I put everything that I've ever done, I put it out in the street. Because then what can you tell me? Okay, I've been you can tell me you've been a drug addict. Okay, now what? I've been divorced twice. I was an asshole. Yeah, now what? I got a beautiful home. I got a beautiful wife. I got beautiful kids. I'm running a great business. What else can you say negative to me that I won't tell you about myself? Yeah, if like my friend of mine, Steven, he says, if you live by the HIT principle, HIT, honesty, integrity, transparency. If you live by that, you really can't go wrong.
Steven was on Failures Anonymous as well.
Yep, he's one of my big mentors. He's a true gentleman. So
yes, he truly is. He's a little bit intimidating with his big posture and yeah. So a friend of mine, when he was watching, he said, amazing guy, but I would not want to be close to him if that guy gets mad.
Yep.
But yeah. So how was the whole, how did the whole bouncing back from all of that happen? Was it like over the night thing, or was it another journey? So first was the journey down, and then
Do you mean the military? At this point in the military?
yeah, yeah.
Well, I just felt like, and my wife, we, every time 9/11 happens, because right now I live, you can see the towers from my house. I mean the Freedom Tower now. Every time anything about 9/11 comes on, I always watch it. And she always asks me, "Well, how come you watch it a lot?" And I said, "Because it changed my life. It changed me. It flipped the switch in my life." So I watch it every time it's on, and I'll read everything I can about it. But after that, I started feeling like I have a purpose. Like I just joined the military to get out of my house, so there was no purpose in it. It was just. And the second time that I joined, it was again just to get out of the house, to be able to do something on weekends. But after 9/11, I think it is when I finally felt I had a purpose in my life. I mean, I don't know. It didn't. I don't know if it changed anybody, but it sure changed me, and I know it changed me a lot. I mean, I went out and got a tattoo the next day. It says September 11th, 2001. Some gave all, and my every time I look at it, I just know that my life changed, and. Yeah. I don't know if it was a spiritual thing, but I just know that it gave me purpose.
And what were, okay, so you had the aha moment, but you probably didn't change overnight.
It took me a while.
It was probably a journey.
Yeah, well, it took me a while because when I got back, all my guys, they're like, "Oh, here he comes. He's still going to be an asshole." So I had to, I'm sorry. I had to make amends to a lot of people. I had to, anybody that I offended, I had to be like, "Listen, I'm sorry for being that way. I'm sorry if I offended you at all." And, and then I really started getting serious about working in the program, working the steps in the program. So then I had to go through all my steps, and I actually had to start making peace with my past. And
how did people react to you approaching them? Did they believe you right away, or
no? They called bullshit, because they've seen it. They've seen the picture before. They've seen it. All right, he's just trying to save his ass. So I had to really work my way back. Like I would always be, if everybody's supposed to be there at 7, I'm there at 6:30. If everybody's leaving at 5 o'clock, I leave at 5:30. I had to go above and beyond every day. It wasn't just like, it was an everyday thing that I had to turn my life around. And then my friend Matt, which is a friend of mine, he led me to Christ while we were on deployment. And that helped out a lot in my life too.
Okay. Wow, pretty amazing journey. I can't even call it a story, it's a journey. And who is Richard today? What do you do? Who can contact you? How can they reach you?
Well, I mean, I have a couple. I started getting really, when I moved to New Jersey, I got a job with a local GNC, which every time that I've ever moved anywhere, I always got a job. I always found either working in a gym or working at a GNC. So it's something I've done for the last 30 years. And I got a job here in New Jersey working for the GNC. And I've always enjoyed helping people. I've always loved that. Probably from the earliest memory, I always looked at guys like Arnold and stuff like that, and read their biographies about what he came through to make it something in his life. So I actually help people that are going through health and fitness issues, and especially addiction issues. That's where I'm really starting to focus my life on, is veterans that are coming home, having addiction issues, getting separated, going through depression and stuff like that. So anybody can follow me I'm just Richard Kaufman on Facebook. And a lot people can also hashtag supplement guy NJ, New Jersey for NJ, supplement guy NJ. And that'll link to all my Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, Twitter, all that stuff. And right now I'm looking to get out of the GNC, probably coming up, probably when I hit 50 in January. So basically I want to be doing this, talking to people, helping them, realizing that, you're the one that changes the end of the story. The beginning of the story, you probably had no control over. You might have had some, but you control the end. Nobody else controls the end. You don't have to give up.
And what's the legacy that you want to be remembered for?
Well, that's what I was getting back. I'm sorry. I got a chance. I started reading books by like Robert Kiyosaki, and I started getting into these self-help books. And I picked up a book by Gary Vaynerchuk.
Okay.
And it was called Jab, 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 Left Hook. And I'm like, I got to meet this dude. And I found out that his father owns a liquor store in Springfield. So I actually went down there and I had a chance to sit and talk to him for like 5 or 10 minutes. And he said, and that's when he's the one that says, make yourself a hashtag. So that's what I've been doing. Every time I post anything, I hashtag it. And he says, legacy is more important than currency.
And what's your legacy? What kind of legacy you want to leave?
Well, the funny thing is, this has only been like 3 months that I've been doing these podcasts, and Donnie's the one that's pushed me to start doing them more. But what happened was I had 2 uncles. One was a Christian man. Everybody loved him. When he passed at age 50, the church was packed. You couldn't even get in there, and everybody was talking good stuff about him. And then I had another uncle. He was just a regular Joe. He died at like 75, and only his family showed up. And it just clicked. I'm like, what kind of legacy do I want? I want when I die, I want to have 3 or 4 services. I want somebody to show up just to make sure that I'm dead, and I want to be able to affect, my goal now is to affect 1 million lives positively. That's my goal in life.
How many have you already affected?
Oh, I don't know. Like, well, if I was on my friend Quinn's podcast, he said he had like 3,000 downloads. Donnie had like 400 or 500. I don't know, but I'm just keep on going because I don't know. I think it's the ripple effect. I may touch somebody that I'll never even see or know about. But if I got a friend in the group that I'm in. He started going to the program and getting sober because we sit and talked, and he actually checked himself into a program. So, if I can do something like that and help save lives that way, that would be my legacy. And to be a good father, I want my kids to be like, when dad was home, dad was present. He wasn't just on his phone. He just wasn't reading or, he was a present dad and husband. So that would be my legacy.
Okay. Richard, what's one thing about failure that you would like the audience to, I don't know, remember or act upon, or, that one thing, the cherry on top of this amazing conversation?
That if you aren't a humble person, God will humble you. You will be humbled one way or another. And when you're humble and you live that, like Stephen says, you live that, the HIT principles, honesty, integrity, transparency, your whole world is opened. Because like even on my, like with your podcast, now that we've become friends, I'll promote you 10 times more than I'll ever promote myself. And that's how I live my life now with my friends. Like my wife, like everywhere you go, somebody. because I could be 800 miles away and somebody's going to know me. And I think the more humble you are, people want to be around you. People don't like arrogant people. And I think humbleness is the biggest thing.
I couldn't agree more with you. The thing that got me on my knees was when I stopped being humble. And so whenever I'm asked to say, you know, like, what's the one advice that you can give to the audience, I always say, stay humble, be grateful, and fail forward.
Yeah. And also, I think be teachable. You know, even though, you know, sometimes you see these people when they get in their 40s and 50s, you know, they can't be taught anything. You know, I think
that comes from being humble, you know, because you are humble enough to accept that somebody else knows maybe something that you don't know, or that you can be taught from a certain situation. I think all that kind of comes from that being humble. Because for me, the opposite of being humble is being cocky, being overconfident, being, you know, like just an ass. But when the opposite is being humble, and I think that being ready to be taught and to learn lessons is one of the main points of you being really humble.
And I think as I get older, I think I have more questions than I do answers.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess the more we learn, the more we know how little we know.
Yeah, like I went to go drop off some cookies for the guys at the veterans home. And I actually got to sit down and talk to like an 85-year-old guy. Just sit and pick his brain. You know, I'm like, wow. I don't think people do that anymore. I don't think people don't even talk anymore. You know, everything is on the phone, you know. It's like people don't even just have conversations anymore.
Yeah. I agree. Well, Richard, I'm immensely grateful that you shared all that journey. I mean, yes, we could just go on and on and on and on and on, and maybe we just need to book you for another real life story, and continue this conversation, because, you know, like, it was an amazing journey, and I'm really happy and grateful that you overcame the obstacles, that you came on the other side alive and grateful, and trying to leave such a wonderful legacy, helping fellow people, helping fellow veterans.
Well, like I said, I think God has really humbled me. Like, can you do me a favor real quick? Put your hand over your eye.
Okay.
That's what I see every day. So when I have a different perspective on life, it never goes away from me. So it's like, you know, it's how else can I not be humble? You know?
Yeah.
I can't see shit. How else can I not be humble?
I understand. Well, again, thank you for agreeing to do this.
Oh, this is fun. I like this.
Well, thank you. And yeah, like, I'll let you know when this goes out. And if there are any links that you want to share with people, how they can follow you, how they can contact you, I'll remind you when this one will get published in a week or so.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm just looking forward to continue our conversations, and just to be part of your life going forward.
And if there's anything I can ever do for you, you know, I'll support you, because my network is growing bigger and bigger every day. So whatever I can do to support you and your, you know, and your listeners, that's what I'll do.
Same from my side. So yeah,
cool.
Thank you again. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to probably volume 2 of this interview someday really soon.
Well, things, like I said, things are just starting. We're just starting to ramp up.
Yeah. Take care, Richard.
All right, my friend. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.